So I was reading Clipperholics.com, which is another source, of course, that I go to and check out at times. And you can also read it yourself and check it out on Fansided. But either way, I was reading that and it talked about, the Clippers playoffs, their chances and things like that, and some teams they should avoid. Now, there was a stint there where it spoke on a few teams that the Clippers, should try to avoid going into the first round of the playoffs. And, me personally, I disagreed with those three teams from the standpoint of, the Clippers, the way they're built to play against anybody. They're built to play against any team. They're built to play against any teams like matchup, any however you want to categorize that. They're built to play against anybody because their depth makes them a unique team, but it also makes them a dominant team if they really when they really put in their mind to go out there and be dominant. Because when the Clippers play defense, they're unstoppable because they got so many offensive weapons coming at you from different angles. I mean, you got Kawhi, PG, now they got Russell Westbrook, who can give you 10 assists a game and give you 10 points also, minus his turnovers. But then you got Terrence Mann and them coming off the bench. They got Norman Powell, Robert Covington, Nicholas Batum. I can go on and on. But see, my point is, they're built for any type of teams, anything a team is ready to throw at them. They're built for it, to me, with all the depth that they have. And Ty Lue, when he's on his game, when he's on his coaching game, right, when he's got his head on straight and coaching the way he's supposed to, they're even more of a tough team to beat because Ty Lue knows how to get to certain players and he knows how to get the best out of certain players. He's shown us that, like last year specifically, more than anything, because when Kawhi and PG was out for, I'd say, most of the season, pretty much all of it, they still stayed afloat and they still made the playing tournament without neither one of their superstar players. And that says a lot about a coach and what what type of message he delivers to his team and how his team responds to the message that he delivers to them. So in reading about the three teams, or the few teams, I should say, that the Clippers should avoid in the first round, when I was reading it, the three teams were Memphis, the Sacramento Kings, and the Phoenix Suns. Now, me personally, I'm going to say this. I don't feel like either one of those teams really would threaten the Clippers the way some might think. Now, I know Sacramento is a juggernaut. I mean, De'Aaron Fox is really good. Sabonis is really good. But when you talk about them, I don't know what they're going to do in the playoffs. What is De'Aaron Fox and, what is his playoff, percentages? You know what I'm saying? How does he fare in games that matter of that magnitude? We don't know, because I don't even think De'Aaron Fox ever made the playoffs since he's been on the Kings. He hasn't been on the Kings but for so long. He hasn't been in the league but for so long. But he's been in the league, long enough to be in the playoffs and be a part of that and all that. But I haven't seen, he doesn't have a playoff resume for me to know what he's going to be like in a 7-game series. So without that experience, I would trust the Clippers over that because they have more experienced guys. And like I said, their star players are way more experienced than anybody on the Sacramento Kings, for the most part. So it's like, when you think about that in its entirety, it's really hard to say the Kings would beat the Clippers in a 7-game series because they don't have enough experience in the playoffs. And like I said, experience overrides a lot, especially when you're in a 7-game series, because you got to know the ebbs and flows of a 7-game series. You got to know when to attack. You got to know how to be aggressive at certain points. And, you got to know, like you got to know when to turn it up a notch. And a lot goes into a 7-game series playoffs for teams to win it. So, I don't believe that the Kings are there. And then we talk about, the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns, yeah, Kevin Durant's on there. That is a juggernaut team with him, Devin Booker and Chris Paul. But really, that's a big two kind of sort of, because Chris Paul isn't the player he used to be. So it's not like the Clippers would be facing a team where, they're looking at it and they're just overly matched because, Kevin Durant's on there. I mean, Kevin Durant can be factored out by Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard plays Kevin Durant really good. I mean, look at the statistics. I mean, look at the games that they played. Now, KD definitely gets his points, gets off against anybody. We know that because KD is a special player, always has been, always will be. No doubt about that. And it's hard for Kawhi to guard him because that's KD. We get it. But KD can't stop Kawhi Leonard either. So it's like offensively, Kawhi is going to have 30 points. KD's going to have about 30, 35, whatever the case may be. So they're going to factor each other out. Then it comes down to Devin Booker and Paul George if he's healthy enough to play. And if he is, personally, you can go tit for tat with that. You can go either way because Devin Booker can drop points unlike a lot of players in the NBA. We know he's good at dropping. He can drop big numbers anytime. But at the same time, what we saw from him in the playoffs last year, will there be another reenactment of that? The way they got handled by the Dallas Mavericks and Luka, you know what I'm saying? So Devin Booker didn't really play as good as I thought he would down the stretch of those games. Like I felt like he should have took over and done, but at the same time, maybe he learned from it. Maybe he didn't. And now we know Paul George, the way off P, playoff P thing and all that type talk. We get all that, but Paul George did show a little bit in the previous season, not last year, the year before, when they actually went to the conference finals against the Suns. Paul George did show that he is, comfortable enough to, not be way off P and play off P. He can play a lot better and he's a little bit more reliable. Now, I don't think Paul George is unbelievably reliable. I just believe Paul George is adequately reliable, which means he'll get you, the points. I believe that the 20 plus points, but it won't be efficient. And, you have to accept the fact that it's not going to be efficient, but he will, also play defense as well. And I think his defense on Devin Booker is a lot better than what Devin Booker's could be or would be on Paul George, because Devin Booker is not a defensive guy. Paul George is a defensive guy. So, I mean, I feel like with Paul George's defense, if he's there, that would be the common denominator between that matchup. And Chris Paul, well, athletically wise, movable wise, mobile, all that stuff, I'm taking Russell Westbrook over Chris Paul because Russell Westbrook is more mobile. I'm not saying Russell Westbrook is a better player. I'm not going to say that, but I'm just going to say right now in their career, I don't know who would be looked at as more valuable, but I feel like what Russ can bring to the Clippers, if, minus the turnovers, he's more valuable to the Clippers than what Chris Paul really is to the Phoenix Suns, unlike what Chris Paul was a few years ago. It's like he done lost a lot of that, now. So it's I feel like the Clippers would still have the advantage and that it would go 6 or 7 games, but I think the Clippers would find a way to, eke that one out and pull that one out. And maybe possibly, win that one and move on to the next round. And then we have the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, the Memphis Grizzlies are a tough team. They're gritty. They got Ja Morant back, and Dylan Brooks is definitely one of the most hated, if not the most hated in the league, maybe besides Draymond Green. But either way, they have a good defensive team, and they're very, very sound, defensively themselves. Jaren Jackson Jr. is definitely, I think he's one of the leading shot blockers in the league, if not the leading shot blocker between him and Brook Lopez on the Milwaukee Bucks. But I think they have a really good defense too. The only problem with their situation is I don't know. They lost that Brandon Clark guy. When they lost him, I thought that just really changed the dynamic of their team because he's one of those hustle type guys. He goes after, loose, he dives on the floor for loose balls. He's good at getting offensive rebounds along with Steven Adams, who hasn't been playing, I don't believe. I think he might be back by now, but who knows? I think he definitely might be back by the playoffs. But losing Brandon Clark was huge for them because, like I said, he's a gritty type guy. He gets offensive rebounds. He sets screens very well. He moves well without the ball. And he's an easy 2 points for them because a lot of times they just throw alleys to him and lobs to him. He's catching and dunking. Or, like I said, a lot of time he gets putbacks off of Ja's misses when Ja's not on from the 3-point range or on with his jump shot. So, I mean, I feel like that was a huge loss for them in that way. But they still have other talent on their team. But in all aspect, the experience. Once again, John Morant doesn't have the experience like, Kawhi, PG players like that. And without that experience, sometimes, like I say, experience goes longer than anything else. Even when you get a job in life, when you go for a job interview or whatever the case may be, every job you go for is looking for experience. They're not looking for just a guy that has a degree. They're looking for experience also. So when we take that logic and factor into this situation, the Clippers got more experience, and on top of that, they have a better player. Kawhi Leonard's a better player than John Morant, in my opinion. John Morant's great. He's high flying. He's exciting, but he's not a championship caliber type player because he hasn't lived up to that as of yet. Now, will he ever? We don't know, but we know Kawhi already has, and Kawhi is the type of player, he turns it up in the playoffs, turns it up a notch, and when he turns it up a notch, I don't really give a damn what defense you got on the other end. I don't give a damn what player you got on the other end. You're not stopping Kawhi Leonard. And when Kawhi has that dominant Michael Jordan type mode, the Grizzlies they're not ready for that. They haven't seen that before. They haven't faced nobody like that before. And when you haven't faced somebody of that type of caliber, it's a whole different animal playing Kawhi in the playoffs rather than playing him just in the regular season. And if Paul George is there and comes along to the party and score with Kawhi Leonard and they're both playing defense, I don't really see how the Grizzlies would have a chance. I think they could beat the Grizzlies 4-1 in a series that they really tried. And now that Nicholas Batum along with Robert Covington is going to kind of like share time between the starting lineup and rotate each other out, now you're adding another tall, lengthy defender who can stop neutralize a lot of the penetration that the Memphis Grizzlies like to do of getting into the paint, because both of them can guard position 1 through 5. So now Kawhi and PG don't even have to guard the best players all the time. They can actually take time off from guarding the best player within the game to focus on their offense and then lock down a little bit more on defense in the second half and finish games out that way. And that's going to make them a superior team if they do that. So my personal opinion, as I said, I don't think none of those three teams are going to really affect the Clippers. And really, I also will say this, I don't really see how the Clippers are going to avoid any one of those three teams in the first round if the Clippers, are in position from 1 to 6. Because right now, if the playoffs ended now, they will be playing the Phoenix Suns, I believe, in the first round. You know what I'm saying? Or, if not unless Minnesota makes a move and they kind of move up the standings and, then a couple other teams lose their position, something like that, then maybe. But really, one of those three teams is actually who the Clippers are probably going to face in the first round. So, I wouldn't avoid it if I was the Clippers. I wouldn't look past it. I would actually embrace it, if I were them, because I think they have a better team overall, and I think they have better chemistry. The Suns don't have chemistry because Kevin Durant's not even playing. And if he was playing, they only have a few games chemistry because the playoffs is about to start. Chemistry goes a long way. We've seen super teams lose without chemistry. And as I said, Memphis doesn't have the experience, and neither do the Kings. And that, to me, gives the Clippers the advantage, and that's the reason why I think they would prevail in either one of those series.